Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
Welcome, Cynthia Campbell. I am so excited for you to be on the show with us today and for you to get a chance to meet Ben, because I know we've known each other for over a decade.
You know, you're aging me. Hello, and thank you for having me. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's really great. So one of the things that we really like to do to get started is to ask you a question, something we call connections before content. So for me, I wanted to ask you, what is the favorite way or your preferred way to relax and refresh your mind, body, and spirit?
Well, I do have a couple ways. My way right now, since it's beautiful spring, is hands in the dirt. I'm a gardener, and my garden is so popular. It even has a Facebook page with more followers than my Facebook page. It's called Unevolved Living, and we have an urban farm on our property here, just a suburban lot of a 1/4 acre, and we use all of it for food production. So it's spring, and I could not be happier because my hands are in dirt every day. I won't show you my nails because they don't look like most ladies' nails. They look like I'm a farmer. But yeah, that's my happy place. When it's not sunny, I'm a yoga person, and I do that every day anyway, but probably more so when I'm not gardening, because gardening will take you into yoga, right? Lifting, stretching, all of those things.
I was going to say you could practice your poses while you're actually gardening,
Totally.
right? You could, except the flamingo may be a little hard or to do that one and get down to the ground, but definitely downward dog, you know.
Oh, all of them. You know, yoga is meant to make us ready for life and ready for meditation specifically, but it definitely helps in gardening. I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah. So Ben, do you know much about yoga?
I know a little bit, yes.
Okay. I know you know more about yogurt,
Yeah.
but I want Okay, good. All right. So now that we've had that little connections, why don't you just give our listeners a little bit of an idea of who you are and things that you're involved in and what you're doing, and then we'll get into your moment.
Very good. Well, I am Cynthia Campbell, and I've been a big credit union fan for about 20 years. We're coming up on my 20-year anniversary of hanging around credit unions, either working for them or being part of the research arm at Filene or part of the credit counseling at Balance. I love and have served or worked for credit unions for that long. So my main focus in that arena has been in the financial coaching arena and also in innovation. I am a DE, class of 2012, best class ever. And I think that's where we finally met, Troy, is at a DE event in the Carolinas about a decade ago. And I had heard so much about you and finally got to meet you in person. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking my coaching, and I have my own company now called Soul Path Leadership. It's coaching for leaders, also public speaking and different kinds of facilitation around value proposition and journey mapping. So finally doing my own thing, which is a whole nother story in its own, but a journey that maybe had too much fear and I waited too long to get started. That's a different
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm up to now. So thank you for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. And for our listeners, just for clarification, DE stands for Development Educator. So part of the credit union movement allows us to really experience what it's like to be in the shoes of the individuals that we are working with. Many in the members of the individuals who partake of our financial services are those individuals of modest means. So having that sort of mindset allows us to really think through what we do. So that I just wanted to clarify that if you hear or see that term CUDE, that it stands for Credit Union Development Educator. And if you see ICUDE, it stands for International Credit Union Development Educator. Mm-hmm. So really awesome with that. And one of the things I also wanted to pick up on was when you were talking about this new venture, or whether or not it was something you should have done earlier, could have done earlier, and that would be another uh-oh. I think the important thing is to always just enjoy, and you enjoy the journey, enjoy the moment. And you may not have been ready years ago, like you're ready now, right? And so all of a sudden we try to apply that to, oh, well, maybe I should have. So,
Such a great point. And, I've called you along the way, Dr. Troy, right? And I've had a few minutes to talk with you about, is now the time? Because I was feeling dissonance in my soul, right? And I felt like, but we have to be careful, right? What is frustration does not define, is it time? Right? Divine timing doesn't always work based on my frustration, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Or fortunately, probably. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And thank you for your help along my path always since the day I met you. You've been super helpful to me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, Ben, I'm going to ask her the first question.
Yeah.
Are you playing today?
I am playing today.
Okay,
I'm thinking, and there's so much to go in the journey. But so, okay, you said there's a couple areas to go down, but what is the uh-oh that you're prepared to discuss with our listeners?
I think it's in time. It's related to the uh-oh of maybe not doing my own thing sooner, but it relates to not taking action when my conviction tells me to, when my intuition tells me to take an action, to start a movement, to move forward on something, and I don't listen to it. So, for example, let's talk about legacy systems. And as a leader, knowing that the system that I was on was not serving anyone well. The clients were frustrated. The employees were doing double work, all of this. And, doing a system upgrade and change is such a big deal. It's a big deal in the time. It's a big deal in the money, in the disruption, and all of the things that go with it, the training and all of this. And I was getting a little bit of pushback on some of those issues, but in my heart, I knew I needed to do this. I needed to do this hard thing. And part of the hard thing was pushing against some internal stuff of, no, not now. It's too expensive. Oh, that's too big, or we don't have it, and da. But it was a legacy system that it was teetering, right? The risk was becoming great, and my sleepless nights were becoming longer. And I realized that I didn't listen to my gut. And that's where kind of the soul path thing started, right? Of when I don't listen to my gut, what happens? And I think that's like the next question, right? And so what did happen? Okay, well, I waited too long. Now all of a sudden that rushing, oh no, right? What was urgent became immediately urgent, which is like on fire, right? And we have to hurry up. We have to plan. The planning part gets truncated because now we spend too much time deciding to do it. And that took a little bit of our time of our planning before our execution and our rollout. So everything was compressed, which means people's timelines and the stress that goes with running a business, with also doing something like this conversion. It can be very hard. So it definitely caused a lot of my own stress and organizational stress by not holding to my own conviction of what I knew needed to happen. And yeah, you ever been there?
Yes, I've been there. And when you talk about your gut, it's like that inner voice, right? That's that inner voice that you're listening to, that you've got some inclination that you should be doing something and you're not following up on it. You're just allowing it to sort of marinate. And, and maybe that's not a bad thing, right? Because we're talking for emerging leaders. I mean, the whole point of today is really helping the individuals who are listening. It's kind of like mentoring through mistakes. It's like, we kind of use our uh-oh as like, oh, that was a mistake maybe. But I also want to make sure that we don't overlook the fact that sometimes our intuition is something that we should explore, but not necessarily something we have to act on. So it's not like act on the intuition, like, oh yeah, I should be doing that and immediately do it. What it says is, I think the intuition is, I think it's your brain working to show all these things that it does when you're not even aware of it, that's in the background, that's actually giving you more of a direction, you should be thinking about pursuing it. So it isn't, oh, I should open up my own business, and then you just go open up your own business. You should be
No.
then kicking the tires around whether or not you should be doing a new business.
So that's my question on the idea of how do you balance the going with your gut and the idea of discernment to go through that process of the normal. The entrepreneurial life is often fire, ready, aim. And I have a history of doing that. So I want to ask you on that scenario of, and I'm gonna preface it with a little story that I realized that I think through ideas, or normally I'm an internal processor, but lately I'm becoming an exterior processor to explain ideas and things like that.
That's because he's been working with me.
And my wife would always ask about these things that I talked about like weeks later. I'm like, oh, I really wasn't going to do that. I was just talking about ideas. And because it dawned on me that she was always trying to keep track on the things that I was doing, and I wasn't executing because I threw out the idea, but then I vetted it internally. And so where is the balance, or what have you found to actually come up with the idea and have your gut, but actually what do you execute on and what don't you execute on with that idea of discernment built in there?
Right. I think intuition, I wouldn't call it an emotion, but I call it a signal. And I do call other emotions signals. Like if I'm upset or angry, right? The emotion's pointing to something. It's pointing to something, and to focus just not on the emotion, but what it's pointing to. And the intuition, I call it rumination or whatever. It'll come to me. I'll just sit there and I'll start I call it observation mode. Okay, this intuition's come to me. Now I'm observing and I'm watching all the things that are involved in this decision of this system upgrade. Then I start the research of all this, and I start talking to people about it, right? I think sometimes we call it socializing the idea or whatever. And so I was totally 100% convicted that it was the thing to do. But this is where I fell down, right? It was in my confidence in making sure that I presented the case and then I kept pushing, because I knew when I really thought about it, if this was my own business, if this was Cynthia Incorporated, would I be upgrading this system? Hell yes, I would. I would be doing it with my own money. I would take a loan to do it because it would be that important to the sustainability and growth of the business. And I knew that as my conviction. But why didn't I move forward or push harder is some things around confidence and some things around a voice at the table even, or being careful about how your voice comes out, right? As a woman who's middle-aged, right? Sometimes we get called Karen, because we can't stay in our lane, or we bring up concerns that aren't ours. Or if we're a woman of color, we might be difficult or angry, or all these stereotypes. So it's not just the same as two men in a room bringing up, hey, we should do this. Sometimes there's more to it than that. There's sometimes even politics, or whatever it might be, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as what needs to get done gets done. But it's navigating that a little bit that sometimes can be hard. And even when we have those convictions, knowing for me, Troy's known me a while, being heard is not my problem, right? Like talking is not the problem. Making sure the message lands the way it should, with who it should, has been a challenge, right? So thankfully, yay, I'm not shy to bring it up, and it's really doing so, not being so worried about my reputation, or I'm a woman of this age, or how are they taking it? No, let's put it on the table and deal with all that crap as it comes out, right? And having more confidence to do that.
Okay, that's really great. So that kind of leads to our question about, what did it cost you? So your uh-oh moment was not acting on an intuition, not acting on your gut, that internal voice, whatever you call it. And so then the question becomes, what did it cost you to not act when you should have, or when you thought you should have?
Yeah, it costs time, right? Time of having the luxury of some margin around a product build became a little bit less margin around the product build of let's hurry up and get it done. It still took a year, as any systems upgrades would like that. But we were thinking maybe 18 months would have been better, right? For the size we were and the team we had and how methodical we wanted to be. And so it took a little bit of that. It took a little toll on the team. It gave me a lesson. So like, one of the things was about really going about building the case for something and really, showing the risk and all of the things and making sure that people weren't too busy to hear it. That's one of the things in our environments. We're so busy that it's hard to slow people down to hear things. And then they become too urgent. So I think I taxed the team too much, myself, maybe the vendor. Maybe if we moved slower, we would have built it differently. Those are things we don't know, right? It turned out great. I feel like, boy, the good part was the team came together. That saying, like when you go through hell with somebody, like they're your team for life. That's kind of how it came. The build team, we spent lots of hours together, got to know each other, built something beautiful from scratch that changed not only the system around coaching, but the paradigm itself from coaching, from counseling to coaching, like a one-off counseling to residual coaching, ongoing methods, and that sort of thing with better outcomes. So all in all, it worked out, but boy, it would have been nice not to get bruised along the way.
Yeah, really.
Well, I'd like to go back. I have two filters. I really love this topic because I'm a very headstrong person, and I just want to get your filters on this in the sense that I have two ways of trying to move forward with something. And you made a statement of a hell yes. And I've used sometimes, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Okay. So A, I want your take on that one. And then B, there's a good book by Andy Stanley called The Best Question Ever. And basically it's 150 pages that can be summed up in one question. Is this wise? And somehow I feel that we internalize and we approach a problem differently if we ask, is this wise? Because we can say, is this financially good? Is it speed? Like there's other variations of the question you could ask, but somehow we internalize wise to be different, and somehow internally we know that. So I'd love both of your takes on the hell yes, no version, and then also, is it wise? And do you think through a problem differently if you say the word wise versus a smart decision or a good decision? Like I personally think total different answers when I add that filter in.
All right, Cynthia, you go first.
Oh, I was going to say, let the wise man in the room go first because you've been a mentor to me. So, but you offered me. So I will just say that hell yes, that's when you're working. My agency was small. It was, a nonprofit. And so when you have limited resources, the things you do better be a hell yes, because you don't have time and resources to do things that are not a hell yes. And I'm an all-in kind of girl. And so everything has to be. I wouldn't be dating my partner, also named Troy, if it wasn't a hell yes. He absolutely has to be a hell yes, or you can't, I'm not going to take you into my inner circle. My jobs have had to be hell yeses, right? All my friendships, because life is limited, time is limited, energy is limited. So my filter is pretty much a hell yes, but I hadn't really heard it put that way. On your thing with wisdom, the difference between wisdom and knowledge, to me feels like when you say, oh, is it a smart decision or is it a wise one? To me, the difference of that would be like embodiment, like really knowing, like on paper check, yes, it's smart. But is it wise? And I think that takes experience and lived experience to know, right? Some mistakes, some moments to become wise. But I'll leave it to Mr. Troy here to follow that up.
So for me, I would say, yes, there's a certain commitment that is made when you say hell yes. It's like I'm in, not I'm wavering. And the thing about it is when you decide if you're lukewarm, then you might have to reevaluate what it is that you're doing or what you're accomplishing or what the issue is. You really either want to be hot or you want to be cold. That lukewarm doesn't really work too much. It is something that inhibits us as individuals for growing, developing, and advancing in ways in which we could, because we hold back. So when you do hell yes, we're moving forward. Now, to get to the hell yes, now that's the part where we want to talk a little bit about the wisdom and knowledge. And so I want to expand on Cynthia. I want to just amplify a little bit of what you said. And that is, for me, knowledge is just the gaining of facts and information. Wisdom is the application of what I've learned. So asking myself, is it wise, is an opportunity possibly to engage the brain into a deeper level of thinking than just, is it something I should do? And for me, when I'm evaluating whether I should do something or not, I go back to a lesson that my mom taught me a long time ago. She said, ask yourself 2 questions. She says, the first one is, are you causing harm to someone else in something that you're doing? Okay, if no, then go on to the next question. Are you causing harm to self in what you're doing? The answer is no. Then you're off to a good start with what it is. Then you have to evaluate based on the other things. But I do like the question, asking yourself, is it wise? Because it gives that. And maybe because we do a lot of open-ended, non-leading questions, we might want to rephrase the question to say, how wise is it? So that we can encourage our brains to think more, because when we ask a closed question, we're only asking for a 1 or 2 word answer, right? Yeah. Right. Is it wise? The answer is either yes or no. But in this case, we could say, oh, well, tell me, how wise is this choice or decision? And now we're thinking maybe deeper, more categories.
Right. Because I think you get to the point where you are checking off the boxes. Yes, it's a smart one. It's a financially good one. It's a this one. But when you get to the how wise is it, well, it doesn't sit well in my soul. It doesn't, there's other variations that you're going to feel that on paper wouldn't get you there. So anyways.
And definitely, I will tell you, if you have to push an idea like an elephant up a hill, then you need to rethink the idea.
Right.
So,
like we have to do all the time working together.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't.
That's not true. But really, and one of my friends at work, she would say, if the idea grows legs, then it usually has a great way to take off. And what she meant by that from an analogy standpoint is, if others are starting to agree, to adopt, to think about it, to figure out how to make it work, then you know that your idea has momentum and it's something you should pursue. But it's like that with Ben. I give Ben like lots of ideas, and if Ben doesn't like them, then I know there's probably not a good chance we're going to make them work.
Dead horses have legs; they just don't work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it's about what has energy, right? A good idea will gather energy around it and really take a life of its own. And not only how wise is it, but what makes it wise. Right.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What makes it
There we
wise?
go.
So there's another good follow-up
Lots of
question with
nuggets.
that.
There we go.
Yeah, good for that. All right, so we talked about your experience, which was kind of maybe holding back on something that you could have done earlier. Basically, what it cost you may have been time or the quality of the product that you produce now. Not that there's any problem with it, but you might have done it differently if you had had a little more time. So that's great. And we don't have to go back and worry about those things that are in the past, because we can't change them. We can only change whatever we're doing today and what we're doing tomorrow. So giving that now as a foundation, what would you recommend for people who are in the same situation, who might not be acting on something? What would you give them as maybe either some action steps, maybe 2 or 3 things that you would say, this is what I would recommend you to do, because this is what's going to keep you and them from not doing that thing again? So what would you recommend for people to do?
I think you said the word earlier, one of y'all did, discernment, right? And really, I think discernment is a muscle. Just like I work out, for weights, 4 times a week, that discernment muscle is something like when we make a decision, we think about, hopefully as leaders, right, we have a decision-making model or practice, because we're making decisions all the time. But when we make these mistakes, we go back and think about what that could have been. And so I think for me, really looking at trusting my intuition. Why didn't I got that down to, it wasn't a bad idea. It had to do with confidence, or the way I was packaging the idea and selling it upstream, or the timing of it could have it, right? Some of those things as well. And working with others on my team to help me pitch this idea. And of course, it was a big expenditure. It needed board, and they definitely got behind it when they did, and we moved full steam ahead. But I think really, I'm a Gen Xer and a latchkey kid, and I think sometimes I have to suffer in silence. Like, I will figure it out, right? And I don't imagine that. And there was a whole team of very smart people who could help package like how we're going to do this in 12 months, and what it's going to cost, and how we might save money, and what parts of it we could do ourselves internally versus with the vendor to save some money and maybe save time. And so it was really, really looking at the strength of the team and knowing I don't have to suffer alone. I can rely on smart people to help me and get the story in a way that other people can get on board. And then once people did, boy, it was a whole paradigm change. Everyone really got on board of understanding it wasn't just a system. It was the change of the way we're thinking about how we're doing business. The system just needed to change to capture that. We had been already changing, moving from counseling to coaching, which was showing way better outcomes, but our system couldn't capture it, right? And so, yeah, I would say teamwork, collaboration, and really working on my discernment muscle of knowing when to push and when to retreat, come up with a different story, a different tactic, and then to go back or not. You can't die on every hill, right? But when it's a hell yes, you can. And that's the thing. And just, we've talked about Troy's mom, I think Franny, I think's her name, right? And one of the things in the books, both of them that I've read now, she is all about character. Right. And so as a leader, that's what I think this discernment muscle is like. How do I build my character of trusting myself and becoming wise in my discernment of how I'm going to go about leading and making decisions? And she said, she's so wise because she said that character is built in our choices. And our choices are so powerful, right? That's where all the power lies, in our choice, this way or that way. And I think that she's right. And how do we make good choices? Every day we build character. We build the discernment muscle. And we do that by the help of our friends at work, friends, coworkers. I think everyone's my friend. Another issue for another day.
That's okay. And I do appreciate, thanks for bringing up my mom. And she would have loved to have had coffee or tea with you and serve you her famous green cookies that she made and chat with you about it. She would love your spirit too. So awesome. Really great. Maybe that's one of the reasons we've been drawn so close together is because I love your outward, unashamed personality and coming forth. And I do understand the optics of the world that we work in. Certainly from a generational perspective, from a gender perspective, from, all sorts of backgrounds, ethnicity, all of that is, going to factor into choices and decisions that we make. So we're not going to be able to just ignore it. But the important thing about having biases is not allowing the bias to control us, but to be aware of the biases. And one of the things that you mentioned before early on was about emotions and about how those emotions, and you don't control or suppress the emotion, but you understand what triggers it. That's how you establish emotional intelligence, is you understand the triggers to those things that are going to create some sort of reaction that you're going to have. So really, I really do appreciate all of that. And I know that you've been a supporter of not only mine, but now you're being a supporter for both Ben and I. And I know that you captured our Becoming a Cohesive Leader book. And I know that you have been reading some of it. Do you have a little nugget of wisdom? What would be your better question? What would be your nugget of wisdom that you might share with what you've read so far?
Well, I'm going to tell you, maybe it's not answering it totally, but I will tell you what I like about this book versus, I read at least a book a week. I churn and burn through them because when I'm working out, that's it's in my ears on my way. I'm always got an audio book on. And so what I like about this book versus other ones is how applicable it is. Like I'm like only in the middle. So I will leave my review when I'm 100% done. But what I can say is that it's not just more TED Talk, right? It's immediately like, here's this, but here's what you can do. Here's the takeaway. Here's the next thing. And I think sometimes books leave us with a whole bunch of a pile of academic things to think about, which for people heady like me, I love it. And I'm good at pulling out what I need to do, but maybe not everyone is. And so my shout out for the book that I've read so far is that it's actionable. And so I think that is really needed today too. So I think that's probably one of my favorite things I could say about any book or conference speech, right? Was there something I can do today? Great, all this esoterical stuff or research, but what can I do today? I'm a doer.
Well, thank you. It's all about experience today, implement tomorrow.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we want to know, what is one question you thought we were going to ask you that we didn't?
What I thought maybe you would ask me what I would be if I wasn't this, what I might be if I wasn't this for a living, or when I was growing up, what I might want to be. I didn't know exactly what you were going to ask. You're always a wild card.
Well, so since that might be your dream question, so what would be your answer to that question then?
Well, that's the thing about roads and choices, as your mom would say. I think I would have taken one of two. What people don't know about me is I have a year of seminary under my belt, a master's in divinity, and I might have chosen that road. That's still intriguing to me some days. And then the other one would be a roller derby queen. I know they're very different, but I love athletics. I'm very strong for a girl. I hate even saying that, but with strength, it kind of works that way. I'm very, very athletic and got a lot of hips. So I think roller derby queen, I could have been really good at that. Maybe next time.
Okay, you just made a flashback for me as childhood, because I used to watch late at night roller derby, which of course is like wrestling, and it's
right.
Staged activity that
I love watching it, and it was so entertaining. They have a league here in Charleston.
Oh wow. My gosh.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm 55 now, so maybe I don't. Do they have a senior league where like
you're
got all the padding everywhere,
Yeah.
We were in that group of 55 and wiser. So
right. Yeah. I'll take it. I've never been worried about my age. I'm always happy to wake up. And, I believe that when we love life, it loves us back. And that's literally the way I live. And that's served me well.
Well, we really appreciate you being with us on the podcast today. Thank you so much for, sharing those nuggets of wisdom with listeners. And certainly they'll be able to, connect with us. And if they do need to connect with you, we would be happy to do that. But why don't you give us, or give the listeners, an opportunity, if they wanted to reach out and know more about Cynthia Campbell, where do they go, or how do they get in touch with you?
Sure. Cynthia Campbell, I'm on LinkedIn, but also Soul Path Leadership is on LinkedIn, Facebook, and www.soulpathleadership.com. All great ways to reach out to me. Thank you for letting me say those things as I get started in my excited journey. But it's been so great to catch up with you, Troy, and great to meet you, Ben. I love your book, and I'll be sure to leave a review when I'm completely done with it. This one I got in hardcover because I want to get it signed someday, when I see y'all. And I wanted it more than just on my audiobook. So I don't always get a physical copy, but when I know the authors, I do.
Sweet. Thank you so much for that. And as we end all of our Cohesion Culture programs with one simple mantra, you don't have to know everything.
You just need to be teachable.
Absolutely. So thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.